say, what do you
It's quite a conundrum, this thing of like, you can't be too paranoid. You can't even be paranoid enough. I firmly believe that even the most out there satanic Illuminati control every aspect of the world scenarios, in a certain sense, although they lay it on far too thick and they discredit themselves, you know, by oversimplifying and all the rest of it, in other ways they don't go far enough. In other ways, I think it's way worse than even they acknowledged. And yeah, paranoia per se, I mean, even if it's justified, isn't, you know, a good setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good place to end up in. I mean, it's not functional.
Yeah, right.
So with people like Eris Davis, I do wonder, and it's kind of maddening not knowing. Even Leatham have had this feeling sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at what level are they filtering out the truth? Is it just denial and an inability to handle it, or is it, which is a strategy in itself, but could it, in some cases, be a higher strategy, which is, yes, we know that this is going on, but we also know that it generates obsession, so we're just going to filter it out in order, you know, to focus on other stuff.
Right.
Because, well, it really is. I mean, particularly if they're driven to reach audiences, which they are, but so am I, so are we. And we don't want to end up reaching those particular audiences. I don't want to be the next Alex Jones or even the next Jan Irvin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, I would much rather be Eric Davis.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But I agree with Jan Irvin much more. I mean, I'm much more sympathetic with Jan Irvin's perspective.
This is back to like that prose poem I wrote, The Healthy Skeptic, you know, the difference between the healthy skeptic and the unhealthy skeptic. The healthy skeptic is able to filter out, like you're saying, you know, Derek Davis and the Jonathan Lethem's world. You know, as we talked about that one time, like, you know, the ability to lie to yourself as a self-preservation mechanism, as an evolutionary advantage, that has to be intact for you to navigate and function, right? So that's quite a conundrum.
Well, if it does, I think we still need to keep a question mark after that. Because for me, and this probably is self-evident, my ability to lie to myself is the thing that I'm trying to rumble and neutralize permanently.
Yeah.
Even knowing that that commitment is probably the greatest obstacle to my success. So the, you know, the area that I'm lying to myself is in that. Like, I want to be successful, but I also want to get to the truth of myself, and I can't do both, but I'm lying to myself by thinking that I can. And I think one of the ways that lie manifests, and this is the Jan Irvin Alex Jones syndrome, even David Icke, I don't want to be the next David Icke either, is that if I can tell myself that getting to the truth involves making people aware of all the ways they've been lied to, and I can be successful doing that, that's how I try and square that circle. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share my process of getting to the truth in the way that will help others to get to the truth. I think it's working. just on a very, very tiny scale.
Mhm.
Like tiny, like the kind of people that can read Seen and Not Seen, or Vice of Kings, or Prisoner of Infinity, which are all difficult and challenging in different ways.
Mhm.
And not just read them, apply them in their own lives, as opposed to just use them as information, infotainment.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a vanishing scale, actually, because there's only dozens of people reading them, not even hundreds. And then it's, whatever it is there, like 1 in 10 that really gets it. It seems to me, but I don't want to believe that. A, because it seems elitist, and B, because it condemns me to eternal marginality.
Right. 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 Well, that's what I meant when I asked if you ever wished that you had infiltrated academia, because, like that email that you got back from them kind of showing you how you've got to support this with more of this, the constructive criticism that you got, like, oh, right, that would be what would be inherent in your skill set if you had been academically trained. We don't know. Also, you may have picked up a lot of other things in academia that maybe it wouldn't be, that would affect your output in a negative way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you know what I'm saying. You could have been programmed to program, and it could have been this.
Yeah. I could have been programmed with the ideological thing, which is not only these are the right methods to use, but this is the right attitude to take if you want to be effective in the world. And if you want to access, you need to learn the handshakes.
Right. And then, so like, because like I always thought when I was in art school, I used to like kind of fantasize like, oh man, what if I could get into advertising, and I could infiltrate advertising, like I'd think like things like that. And then, it's like thinking like, oh, I'm going to go undercover in the Church of Scientology, and I'm going to, I'm going to write a report about it. But like, and then before you know it, they got you.
Absolutely, yeah. It would be, or like even joining the mafia as a way to write a book about the mafia. I mean, it's not likely to end well, is it? Hunter and S. Thompson did it with the Hells Angels. And it didn't end particularly well for him, but he did get a good book out of it. Well, I suppose that is where I'm at though now, isn't it? Because I want to talk to these people, and it's interesting combination, because it's superficial on one layer. It's, I want to branch out and build some bridges, or at least use some bridges that maybe already exist, what have you, that I've stayed away from, to extend the scope of my explorations and my conversations. And that certainly could generate more interest. Like Eric Davis has a bigger audience than I do. We're more similar to each other maybe than anyone else out there. I don't know. I certainly can't think of anyone podcasting that I would consider more similar to what I do than him.
Well, you guys are the only ones I listen to regularly. That's strange, right? That it's you and Eric Davis.
Case closed. Yeah, because now you know me, so it's personal. So what was I saying? Yeah, so yeah, that could be also a way to reach more people, etc. Definitely. But as well as that, and probably more interesting, definitely more interesting, but probably more important, it's a way for me to go out of my comfort zone and test my own assumptions and presuppositions, and also to test my ability to navigate that liminal, that realm of uncertainty about, am I talking to a conscious deceiver here, I don't mean Eric Davis specifically, but it would include him, but the various people, or am I talking to somebody who's been deceived or deluded, or am I talking to somebody who knows but they're strategic, they're infiltrating, and we're basically on the same side?
Yeah.
Not that there are sides, but we basically have the same motivation and the same objectives.
Yeah, he's just under deep cover, and you better not blow his cover.
Which would be a risk talking to me, of course, in more ways than one. So isn't that what we're all looking for? Is that who can we trust, and how can we relate to each other without putting each other in boxes and keeping up walls and defenses and making it conditional? Until I've seen all of your credentials and basically kept you under surveillance for 20 years, I'm not going to let you sleep over.
Right.
Interesting metaphor, isn't it? Because it's sort of literal now, and people get to know each other through the surveillance state via social media.
Like checking up on somebody by...
Or even before they meet them, they find out all this stuff about them, what they like, where they go.
Yeah. Looking for red flags in that information.
Absolutely, yeah. How do they feel about mushrooms? How do they feel about transgender? What's their religious orientation? Are they right-wing? Are they Trump supporter? Are they worthy to be my friend? Is it safe to be friends with them?
Right. Yeah, what did we do before that? Just judge people on their clothes? How did we...
Music, what music do you like? I mean, the early conversations, but they would be very different, because actually you're communicating mostly through body language, and you're smelling them and all that other stuff's happening. You're finding out if there's affinity in the most primal way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're much, much, much more susceptible to being fooled now. There's no doubt. Like, insofar as animals can't be fooled, and I don't know that's entirely true. They can probably be fooled by some things for sure, but human technology and whatnot. But insofar as they're relatively impervious to being fooled, it's because they're relying on natural instinct and on the senses, rather than pure information.
We put screens in between us, and nature doesn't know how to navigate that alien terrain, and that terrain is very deceptive. So
we become more and more reliant on information. The medium is the message. Like, information is only as good as its source, but that would also include the source. Would also include its conveyance. How it's being conveyed to us. Like now we're talking, but I'm actually just getting digitally crunched data version of Gib, which isn't actually you.
yeah, I'm always aware of that when we do the Zoom rooms. Are you?
Not mentally, no. I would, by definition, I'd be physically aware of it, and so I'd be acting in different ways. But I don't think about it much.
Sometimes for me, like even just the image quality can get so shit. Maybe my internet's not as good as yours, but it can get so shitty that my awareness of that, it even feels like it's hindering my ability to connect.
Sure.
But I guess that'll all go away when the high res post. Yeah. Anyway, I derailed you. What were you saying?
Yeah, well, I hadn't quite finished it. the animals. So one unfinished thought was that we may, like I said, with that blueprint about entertainment, how that gives us a blueprint that we associate kind of higher realities with escape from reality, which means that they wouldn't be. But anyway, that was another example. Maybe of something about information that we might have prematurely disconnected information from the source and message from the medium. Well, it should probably never happen, but we've certainly done it prematurely anyway. And come to value information more and more, like the information age, as the value of the currency. The currency is information. And even, right, once information is disconnected from the source, it may well be that information actually has zero value per se. Just as I guess we experience all the time, like you can have a conversation and you say, how are you? I'm fine, and blah, blah, blah. And people are apparently sharing information, but they're not. We know they're not. But if we were completely robots, we wouldn't know that. We would just say, how are you? Because we're programmed, and then we'd hear fine, and we would just think that we had just found out something about that person, right?
Right.
So, yeah, the last thought was that maybe this is, because what's going on now, we're coming up with this model of reality that we are just information, right? Even physical matter is just information.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's another case of the counterfeit, because we've become more and more dependent on information to experience reality. We're interpreting reality more and more as if it were just information. But that may not be the case. Like, that may just be a metaphor that doesn't really represent the reality. And when two people meet, I was thinking about the animals, they smell and all that stuff. So we say, well, they're exchanging information. Well, maybe that's not accurate. See what I mean? Maybe that's just a reductionist model.
So what are they doing?
Well, I mean, we'd have to get transcendental, wouldn't we, or something? Like, well, I mean, I've touched on this on the podcast a few times. What's happening in the spaces when we're talking? It seems as though there's communication is occurring that's non-verbal and even non-physical, because we're not physically aware of each other. We've just got these, digitally crunched versions. So if souls are connecting, it might be wrong to say that they're exchanging information, because if souls are trans-temporal and outside the physical, then that wouldn't be a correct, that would be crunching it down into something, or up, whichever it is, crunching up or crunching down, into something that reduces it. I mean, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but that's sort of the point.
Right.
I mean, God can't be an information system. We got this correlation now with the New Age woo, and I bet we'll see it creeping into this the narrative that's unfolding, the narrative of hope, the technological angel. The universe is an information system, number one. That's got to be questionable, but it seems like a working model with the atoms spin and communicating over all that stuff. I laid it out in Matrix Warrior. But where we make the leap, it's the same place that Pasulka makes the leap, I think, is with correlating the universe with God. Like, now the New Age and all that stuff, they'll say the universe wants me to do this. And,
Yeah, right.
We make the universe either God or a physical organ of God.
Right.
in the same way that Pasulka makes the extraterrestrial either the divine or
messengers of the divine.
Messengers of the divine, right?
Yeah.
But that's elite. Just because it's like the trauma thing. Just because it transcends our ability to encapsulate it doesn't mean that it's higher or that it's actually transcendent, because we might just be incapable of making sense of it. Like, not everything we can't make sense of is by definition divine or transcendental.
Right.
And you know, just because the universe is incomprehensible doesn't make it synonymous with God. But if we do make that leap, then we end up reducing God to information. God's just all of the information in all of existence.
Right.
In one place and one time.
Right. Right.
So that's immanence without transcendence.
Mm.
I think. So that would be Satan.
Shit.
Got it wrong again. Fooled again. Oh God. Like the video game, you go down the hole. Game over. Put another coin in.
You win again, Lucifer.
You might like the light, but they don't like the sun. When the little people come, when the little people come, scatter shiny things, cause they're not scared of guns. When the little people come, when the little people come, better hide up all your pickles, better stock up on your rum. When the little people come, when the little people come, it won't be any fun. When the little people come, when the little people come, when the little people come.